Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Transmigrated and taking over Ichigo's body. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Quick update. The series What If Transmigrated to a Medieval Pokémon World will be going on hold soon, since we've nearly caught up with the author. So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these three fanfics. What if creating the strongest Strawhat crew by reading manga? What if Reincarnated in Bleach as Toshiro Hitsugaya? What if Reborn in Naruto World, continuation? Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. I'll take the top pick and start working on that series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 141, Meeting Vizard. Karakura High School was not far from the Vizard's location. Following Shinji, Ichigo's steps were quick. Not long after, he arrived at the warehouse area where the Vizard were. He then took out a soul candy to leave his body. The Vizard group, like Saragaki Hiyori, Yadamara Lisa, Ashoda Hachigen, and others, appeared before Ichigo. Yo, Baldy, this is the guy Kisuke mentioned? Doesn't look like much, Hiyori said loudly. At the same time, her eyes flashed over the Rui earrings on Ichigo's ears. And earrings? TCH, Baldy, why did you bring back a sissy? Damn you, Hiyori. I said I'm not a Baldy. Shinji glared angrily at Hiyori, and, didn't you sense it? Sense what? Hiyori retorted at Shinji. Shinji said speechlessly, that's a Zanpakuto, idiot. What? This is actually, a Zanpakuto? Hiyori was shocked, looking at Ichigo. That's right, it is indeed a Zanpakuto. Ichigo nodded. Because Zangetsu was a permanent release type, Rui felt it wouldn't match if she wasn't also permanently released. So Rui, after releasing, was unwilling to retract. Knowing this, Ichigo had to let her be. But don't you already have a Zanpakuto on your back? Hiyori was very puzzled. That's naturally because he has two swords. Weren't you once a Research and Development Institute's vice director? Don't be so ignorant, okay? Shinji mocked. Damn you, who are you calling ignorant? Picking up her slipper, Hiyori and Shinji fought fiercely. Faced with this comical scene, Ichigo found it both funny and exasperating, while the others were unfazed. Sorry, they're usually like this. With wavy blonde hair, like a medieval British noble, Odoribishi Rojuro walked over. Looking at the Rui earrings on Ichigo's ears, Odoribishi praised. Truly a beautiful Zanpakuto. Seeing this, inspiration keeps welling up in my heart. Indeed, if this Ichigo-kun were to become a host, I would definitely patronize you. Wearing a sailor uniform, her slender waist and exquisite navel exposed, with braided hair and glasses, dressed as a cute schoolgirl, Yadamara Lisa said. However, her vulgar words didn't match her appearance. Looking at Lisa, Ichigo smiled. If you're willing to patronize me, you don't need me to become a host. Oh? Lisa was startled, then laughed. Alright, seems we have a very interesting person. In a few words, Ichigo preliminarily conversed with the Vizard. Then Nugiruma Kensei looked to the side and impatiently roared, Hey, Shinji, are we doing training today or not? When will you finish? Shiro, stop them. Okay. Kyuna Mashiro listened to Kensei's words and burst into Hiyori and Shinji's fight. Alright, Hi-Hi-chan, and Shinji, fighting is bad. Bastard, who are you calling Hi-Hi-chan, you idiot girl? Hiyori's disgusted voice came. But with innocent and simple Mashiro's intervention, the Vizard also regained their usual calm. Shinji sat back down. Tell us, what state were you in when you completely transformed into a hollow? We'll try to replicate it. However, hearing Shinji's words, and under Shinji's puzzled gaze, Ichigo shook his head and said flatly, unnecessary. Unnecessary? Hearing this, the Visored were very puzzled. What does unnecessary mean? Unnecessary means I know how to trigger that state, and I know it cannot be controlled. Ichigo explained, as long as I fight to exhaustion, near death, the hollow power within me will appear. It will defeat the powerful enemy, then repair my injuries. However, this power cannot be controlled. Or rather, it appears precisely because there is a power within me that I haven't mastered. Once mastered, it also disappears. And regarding training for this, you can't help me. Ichigo's hollowification is actually fundamentally different from the Visored's hollowification. The Visored's hollowification, as Aizen said, breaks the boundary between hollow and Shinigami, improving their strength. But Ichigo's hollowification is just using hollowification as a way to take out and use the power he should already have. The biggest proof is that Ichigo never hollowified again after the battle with Aizen. Because the hollowified power had already been taken out and used, and consumed in Mujutsu. Regarding complete mastery of the power within, the Visored cannot help Ichigo. Ichigo's arrival this time wasn't for this matter. But if we can't help you, then why are you here? Shinji asked strangely. It's for other training. Ichigo replied. In the original work, when Isshin taught Ichigo the final Getsuga Tensho, he said, all of Ichigo's power up to that point was obtained through brute force. He hadn't, like ordinary Shinigami, meditated day and night with Zanpakuto and Zanzen, nor practiced Kido or Hakuda, his Zanjutsu goes without saying. Ichigo merely brutally used the power obtained from his elders and various parties. That's why Ichigo had been learning Kido all along. But for Ichigo, Kido alone was not enough. Without exaggeration, Ichigo's current strength had hit a bottleneck. Earlier, the game event allowed Ichigo to obtain the pixie doll. That was good, but for Ichigo's strength bottleneck, it was merely adding the icing on the cake, not sending charcoal in snowy weather. Ichigo self-estimated his current strength should be around that of the Quinto Espada, approaching the Quattro Espadas level. If Ichigo fought Ulquiorra now, he wouldn't be completely outmatched. But again, that's all. Among the Shinigami's four arts, Zanjutsu, Hakuda, Ho-Oh, Kido, mastering Zanjutsu to the extreme can cut space, shattering worlds. Mastering Hakuda to the extreme can fully unleash the body's strength. The Shunko mode after days and nights of accumulated body strength is even not inferior to Bankai. Kido goes without saying. During Aizen's hollowification experiment, Tessai's Kido could freeze space, reverse time. Aside from Ho-Oh, which indeed isn't very useful, these three arts can touch the source. However, whether it's Zanjutsu, Hakuda, or Kido, they all require time for training. Ichigo precisely lacked time. He couldn't, in this short time, train these arts to extremely high levels. Thinking it over, Ichigo still only had, like the original Ichigo, to rely on brute force for a breakthrough. So now there were two paths before Ichigo. First, Zanzen in Bankai state, to directly face Tensa Zangetsu, simultaneously tame Tensa Zangetsu and hollow Ichigo, obtaining complete self-power. But this training requires unprecedented great determination and perseverance. Japanese anime are full of bloodline theories. Naruto's mother was a descendant of the Sage of Six Paths, his father a Hokage. Luffy's Gomu Gomu no Mi heart changed into the Nika fruit, and he himself is also of a clan betrayed by history, the true celestial dragon. Ichigo goes without saying, his mother a pure-blood Quincy, his father a Shiba clan's member closest to Soul King lineage. Seemingly, the protagonist's powers all have origins, and it's because they have origins and bloodlines that they can be so strong. But there's one thing that isn't bloodline. That's the protagonist's determination. Just like the state of mind spoken of in cultivation novels, a person's determination is unchanged. To be honest, although in the past Ichigo looked down on the original Ichigo in various ways, regarding his determination to stake everything, undergo Mujutsu training, burn everything of himself to fight Aizen, the current Ichigo cannot match it. He didn't believe that he, having experienced nothing, could achieve such determination. Therefore, Ichigo cannot undertake the final Getsuga Tensho training. And only the final Getsuga Tensho can simultaneously tame the two powers within, achieving complete Bankai. So the logic is stuck here. Slow, gradual training, no time. Taking shortcuts cannot be achieved. With this, Ichigo could only seek an intermediate method. Chapter 142 Rebalancing the situation within Ichigo. If it's not taking shortcuts, and not slow gradual training, then there's only taking a detour, taking a winding path. Facing the visored group, Ichigo said calmly, I want you all to completely suppress me in the coming period. What do you mean? The visored were very puzzled by Ichigo's words. And Ichigo didn't explain much. You'll know later. Call everyone up. Then Ichigo closed his eyes, used Bankai, placed Tensa Zangetsu on his knees, and entered Zanzen state. This kid, quite arrogant tone. Looking at Ichigo, who paid no attention to anything, Shinji murmured. But he also knew the path of genius was always unique, always incomprehensible. After gathering the entire visored, Ichigo entered his inner world. Different from the old man Zangetsu during Shirkai, the young Zangetsu appeared before Ichigo. Looking at Ichigo, young Zangetsu had his hood covering his face, though from his downturned mouth corners, one could see his mood wasn't very good. Because, beside young Zangetsu was another person. A woman. This was precisely the reason for young Zangetsu's bad mood. Gentle temperament, exquisite beauty, wearing a form-fitting emerald green hanfu dress, slender waist and ample bosom, delicate floral decoration between her brows adding a touch of ethereal, immortal aura. Ichigo's own Zanpakuto, Rui, gave him a slight smile. Ichigo, you've come. Such a rare guest. By the way, help me look at young Zangetsu. I don't know why, but he gets angry just looking at me. Clearly, I haven't done anything wrong. Hearing Rui's words, Ichigo shook his head. It's not that you've done anything wrong, but... The later words Ichigo didn't say, because saying them would hurt feelings. Young Zangetsu's thoughts were simple, he was jealous, and also puzzled. From Ichigo's past experiences, one could see that his Zanpakuto, Zangetsu, was practically two different concepts compared to other Zanpakuto. Other Shinigami wanting to use their Zanpakuto's abilities was like falling in love. Affection grows over time, long-term companionship, hardware requirements met. House, soul's imprint, car, Zanzen companionship nurturing, bride price, Ryatsu. If one of the three isn't met, the Zanpakuto won't tell the Shinigami its name. But with Ichigo? Ryatsu reached? Okay, my name is Zangetsu, take the ability. Compared to other Zanpakuto, old man Zangetsu was more like an elder. But here it wasn't old man Zangetsu, but young Zangetsu. Compared to old man Zangetsu, young Zangetsu's emotions were more abundant. At the same time, regarding outsiders, the game could directly block abnormalities, telling them Ichigo originally had two Zanpakuto. But facing Zangetsu, rooted deepest within, for the newly added Zanpakuto to completely hide from it was difficult. Even Ichigo only knew during that time when the game helped him complete his Zanpakuto's Shirkai and informed the name. Zangetsu had suppressed Rui. If things proceeded normally, Rui might only be like Hollow Ichigo, tossed out by old man Zangetsu for Ichigo to use when necessary. However, the game's earlier forced power infusion instead helped Ichigo. After a brief silence, young Zangetsu also looked at Ichigo and asked directly. How should I address you? Ichigo, or Lingfan? T/N, will be using Lingfan's name for a while to avoid confusion. Ichigo thought and answered, Lingfan. Although I am currently also Kurosaki Ichigo, compared to Kurosaki Ichigo, I identify more with the name Lingfan. Then what about the original Kurosaki Ichigo? Young Zangetsu asked. Here, it's me. Lingfan explained helplessly. I am also Kurosaki Ichigo, it's just I identify more with the name Lingfan. Who I truly am, you should be able to sense, right, Zangetsu? Hearing this, young Zangetsu's brows slightly furrowed. Indeed, Lingfan was Kurosaki Ichigo, he could also perceive that. This feeling was completely different from him and Hollow Ichigo. At least Zangetsu and Hollow Ichigo had two consciousnesses, and even though they were one entity, they could be considered two individuals. But with Lingfan, from start to finish there was only this one consciousness. Rui's appearance was less like an added foreign object, and more like she had been here from the beginning, just surfacing now. Alright, I roughly understand. Young Zangetsu nodded, his attitude softened. Then, Ling-fan, what is the purpose of your visit this time? Ichigo took a deep breath and stated his purpose this time: I demand tripartite power redistribution. T/N, changing to Ichigo again. Tripartite power redistribution? Chewing on Ichigo's words, young Zangetsu was somewhat puzzled. But immediately he understood what Ichigo meant. One could see Ichigo, who was originally facing both young Zangetsu and Rui, walked to Rui's side and took her hand. Coyly glancing at Ichigo, Rui also directly leaned against him. Seeing this, as if cuckolded on the spot, or rather just cuckolded on the spot, young Zangetsu's expression drastically changed. Eyes narrowing slightly, killing intent appeared in young Zangetsu's gaze looking at Ichigo. Powerful Ryatsu surged forth. In the inner world, winds rose and clouds scud. Ichigo, do you really know what you're saying? Young Zangetsu interrogated. Of course I know. Facing young Zangetsu's murderous gaze, Ichigo not only didn't restrain himself, instead pulled Rui's body firmly against him. Originally, within Ichigo were two forces, Shinigami/Hollow, Quincy. But now within Ichigo were three forces, Ichigo's Shinigami/Hollow, Quincy, and Ichigo's own Shinigami power, namely Rui. Originally, the forces within Ichigo opposed and entangled, so what was given to Ichigo himself was only that much. To use a bit more, he had to face life-threatening problems, then the entangled forces within would release to protect his life. That's why the original Ichigo had to subdue both. But for the current Ichigo, he didn't need to subdue both. As the saying goes, a triangle is the most balanced relationship. Ichigo only needed to change the power within from two-party oppositional balance to tripartite mutual balance. Tripartite mutual balance, although there would still be power consumed in opposition, was better than two-party entanglement. Only now, Rui was very weak. To balance with the other two, required favoritism from Ichigo, the master, directly seizing, or obtaining power from the other two. This was the reason for young Zangetsu's drastic change in expression. This was clearly a kind of favoritism. And looking at young Zangetsu's accusing gaze, Ichigo also felt a bit embarrassed, but he still withstood the pressure. Don't look at me like that. Your struggle has already affected me. I'm just giving a method good for everyone. Ichigo continued, Zangetsu, you probably don't want me to undertake the final Getsuga Tensho training, right? Hearing final Getsuga Tensho, young Zangetsu's expression grew even uglier. How do you know about this? Did Kurosaki Ishin tell you? He asked incredulously. Don't worry about it. I just know it exists, Ichigo answered. Young Zangetsu remained silent. After a long time, he heaved a long sigh. All right. I agree. Final Getsuga Tensho is training that hands over all authority and strength to Ichigo. At that time, Ichigo could exert all strength, but also had the ability to stake everything, which would lead to Ichigo losing his Shinigami abilities. A Zanpakuto wanting to protect its master generally is unwilling for the master to undergo such training. This is a bottom line. The window opening theory wins again. Silently, young Zangetsu came before Ichigo, inserted his hand, and dragged out Hollow Ichigo from within Ichigo. And from this action, one could see that within Ichigo, it had always been Zangetsu's power occupying the upper hand. Then, the familiar bull-headed Hollow Ichigo appeared before Ichigo. Yo, long time no see, King? Hollow Ichigo greeted Ichigo. This matter seems very interesting. I like it. So, come on. Unlike young Zangetsu, Hollow Ichigo didn't think there was anything wrong with Ichigo taking his power, provided he could defeat him. Chapter 143: The Showdown with Zangetsu. At this time, 2 Tensa Zangetsu and 1 Rui were drawn. Young Zangetsu, Hollow Ichigo, and Ichigo stood in triangular formation. The next moment, the three simultaneously stepped forward. Clang! Tensa Zangetsu with Tensa Zangetsu with Rui, sharp katana, and Chinese sword violently clashed. Tremendous force came from Rui's blade. In just an instant, Ichigo was sent flying. Mid-air, feeling his numb palms, Ichigo silently gritted his teeth. As expected, with Rui's current strength, wanting to contend against Tensa Zangetsu was still too difficult. Turning back, Ichigo looked at Rui, who had suddenly appeared behind him and caught him. Rui, you also have to put in some effort. No problem, Ichigo. I am Rui who can follow your will. Rui's gentle voice softly came. From Rui, much information about how to utilize Rui poured into Ichigo's mind. Ichigo's eyes lit up. Manipulating the space between himself and Zangetsu and Hollow Ichigo, Ichigo took a step, traversing the 100-meter space highly compressed into 1 meter. Simultaneously, the moment Ichigo crossed the space compressed by Rui began to rebound. Stepping on the rebounding space, Ichigo was launched like a pinball. Holding the sword with both hands, Ichigo swung a ferocious thrust at Hollow Ichigo ahead. Sensing the crisis behind, Hollow Ichigo turned to block. But when Rui pierced Tensa Zangetsu, Hollow Ichigo's expression changed. This felt not like blocking Rui's sword tip, but like blocking the entire space. The weight of an entire space pressed down. Boom! Hard taking such a space sword, Hollow Ichigo also was sent flying. And Zangetsu, seeing Hollow Ichigo fly away, unhesitatingly turned to face Ichigo. Getsuga Tensho! A sharp slash arrived. Young Zangetsu thought this strike would directly deal Ichigo a heavy blow. But immediately, Ichigo's response method shocked him again. Facing the incoming Getsuga Tensho, Ichigo drew his sword and pointed. The next moment, in Ichigo's eyes, the entire block of space containing the Getsuga Tensho infinitely elongated. Like being magnified countless times, the fine erasure structure of Getsuga Tensho appeared before Ichigo's eyes. Such a scene was familiar yet unfamiliar to Ichigo, who had fired Getsuga Tensho countless times. But now was not the time for reflection. Aiming at the core node of Getsuga Tensho, Ichigo lightly tapped. Thereupon, Getsuga Tensho was like a fragile bubble, popped by Ichigo just like that. Under young Zangetsu's surprised gaze, after popping Getsuga Tensho, Ichigo followed up by thrusting at his chest. And this time, young Zangetsu was still in the stiffness after Getsuga Tensho, unable to block. If this were just a 1v1 duel between Ichigo and young Zangetsu, Ichigo would have already won now. The problem was they weren't 1v1. Just as Ichigo's blade was about to touch young Zangetsu, a red Siro passed through the center of the two. Simultaneously jumping back, Ichigo and young Zangetsu dodged Hollow Ichigo's Siro. King, and Zangetsu, don't forget me. Hollow Ichigo laughed heartily as he charged over. He enjoyed such scenes. But Hollow Ichigo didn't laugh for long either. Raising his palm towards Hollow Ichigo, Ichigo continuously cast incantationlessly, Hado number 31, Shikao. Rui's space manipulation ability unfolded before Ichigo, and simultaneously Shikaho continuously shot from his palm. Fire-red Shikaho rushed into the space elongated by Rui, as if stuck in mud, speed slow, hobbling. But everyone knew this wasn't Shikaho's speed slowing, but the path was too long. Putting 100m champion Usain Bolt on a 100-kilometer track, from a macroscopic view, he also crawls like a snail. With such manipulation, Ichigo accumulated countless Shikaho before himself, numerous Shikaho suspended before Ichigo. Then, the elongated space restored. The accumulated Shikaho by Ichigo were like rockets shot at Hollow Ichigo at high speed. Boom, rumble, rumble. Shikaho arriving on the face the second after being fired left Hollow Ichigo covered in dust and dirt. Damn it! Unwilling to accept, Hollow Ichigo charged forward, but now, young Zangetsu had already engaged Ichigo again. So Hollow Ichigo struck young Zangetsu away, then clashed with Ichigo. Thus, one moment Ichigo fought young Zangetsu, the next young Zangetsu fought Hollow Ichigo. Or Ichigo and Hollow Ichigo together chopped at young Zangetsu, or young Zangetsu and Hollow Ichigo together chopped at Ichigo. A super melee among the three unfolded. Such a chaotic melee was very intense from the start. And while the inner world fought intensely, the outside world wasn't much better either. Because Ichigo actively transferred control of his body, from originally three-party master, Ichigo stepped down to control one party and fought the other two. So, Ichigo's original body naturally lost consciousness. In the Vizard's training ground, Ichigo, holding Tensa Zangetsu, terrifyingly transformed into the Horned Hollow, gathering power for the strongest Zero. Quick, suppress him. Seeing Ichigo like this, the Vizard all stepped forward together. Crush down, Tengamaru. Chop cleanly, Kobakiri Orochi. Blast away, Tachikase. Smash, Haguro Tanbo. Play, Kinshura. Numerous Shurikai appeared. The symphony inside and out played. Never ceasing, a death fight that wouldn't stop until the goal was achieved continued. Thus, one day later, Kisuke and Yoruchi, and the others, sought out by Oroheim, arrived at the Vizard's location. What they saw was such a scene. Ichigo alone stood in the center, covered in blade scars, yet full of spirit. Around him, Shinji, Kensei, Lisa, and the others lay on the ground. The Zanpakuto usually treasured like life were casually discarded nearby. And at the place of the most rough and straightforward Love Ekawa, rhythmic snoring even sounded. Clearly, everyone was exhausted, not a drop of Ryuryoko left. Seeing Kisuke's arrival, the still most lively Hiyori forced herself up and gave Kisuke a spinning kick. Urahara Kisuke, you bastard. We shouldn't have accepted your commission. Kisuke raised his hand to catch Hiyori's kick, then his expression changed. As her former lieutenant, Kisuke knew Hiyori too well. Because of the replacing Hikifune Kiryu incident, Hiyori hated him immensely, usually hitting and cursing him without holding back. But such a Hiyori now only released such a soft, weak kick, showing how merciless Ichigo's exploitation of the Vizard was. What exactly did you do, Kurosaki-kun? Kisuke looked at Ichigo incredulously. Actually didn't do much. Ichigo laughed awkwardly. Just some matters, so I let the monsters within me out and had everyone help discipline them a bit. Ichigo spoke lightly. But hearing his words, the physically strong Mashiro issued a complaint. Discipline? Sob. Ichigo, how did we offend you? Tell us, we'll change. How is this us disciplining you? Clearly it's you disciplining us. Ichigo. Chapter 144 Aizen's Two Enforcers. Sob. As she spoke, Mashiro actually started crying. Seeing this, the live stream audience who had watched for a day as the Vizard fought for a day also laughed. Ha, who says it's not? White Ichigo transformed can regenerate super fast, has Hiero, occasionally can also manifest that body surface glowing blue, spatial movement ability. Even from our audience's perspective, this looks like a perfect monster. And such a monster can also use Kido. The Vizard who couldn't go for the kill really had it hard. For Ichigo this time, it's probably first meeting is the last meeting. Regarding this day and night of fighting, even the audience could only describe it as brutal and insane. This. Mashiro's words also made Kisuke unable to hold back. For Mashiro's personality to say this, having the Vizard help Ichigo, wouldn't that have immediately brought his prestige to negative? Kisuke looked dumbfounded at Ichigo. His gaze made Ichigo feel a bit embarrassed. Alright, my fault. I shouldn't have been so intense right from the start. But, thanks to everyone, this training is now finished. From now on, there's no need for everyone to continue helping me with training. Thank you. Ichigo bowed deeply. In the day and night of fighting, not only were the Vizard exhausted, but the balance within Ichigo's own body was also completely achieved. Now, having achieved tripartite balance, Ichigo had the confidence to face at least the Trace Espada, and obtained the training qualification for Rui's Bankai. As the saying goes, a barrel's capacity is based on the shortest plank. Ichigo's current shortcoming was Rui, which only had Shurikai. As long as Rui achieved Bankai, Ichigo had confidence to completely surpass the Espada, reaching the Shinigami limit level of the type like Yamamoto. In that case, that's good. Seeing Ichigo's confirmation, Kisuke also completely sighed in relief. Regardless, his purpose this time was achieved. In that case, Inoue-san, could I trouble you to help me give everyone some simple recovery treatment? Consider it tidying up for your little boyfriend.
Kisuk asked Inoue Oraheim.
Ah, okay. Blushing fiercely from the little boyfriend comment, Oraheim unleashed Soten Kisun.
Orange recovery fields covered everyone. Thank you, Oraheim. Come play sometime.
Not long after, amid farewells from Ashota Hachigen, who had really clicked with Oraheim, and also amid Hiyori's chase, Ichigo left the visored.
Walking home with Oraheim all the way, Ichigo swayed leisurely.
One day later, Ichigo came to the Urahara shop, preparing to inquire about usual Bankai training. But right then, everyone in Karakura town suddenly sensed an extremely powerful Ryatsu exploding at Karakura Park.
This Ryatsu, an Arrancar? Ichigo turned to look.
At the same time, Jingbing and Exe and Na, who were handling hollow extermination in Karakura town in Ichigo's place, ran over.
Looking at Ulquiorra and Yami with their half-masks, the two were utterly shocked.
Hey, what is this?
Hollow? Shinigami?
That's right. This was the arrival of the Espada, crafted by Aizen, which are comparable to Gotei 13's captains.
Oh, so this is the living world?
Stepping out from the Garganta, Yami crossed his arms, scanning around. He extended his hand, feeling the Reisher concentration in the air, curled his lip, saying disdainfully, such a desolate place.
What, is this your first time here? Ulquiorra asked somewhat strangely.
No, came a few times before having this form, but never stayed long.
Yami said, back then, I still had to fear Shinigami pursuit. But now.
Facing the pedestrians in the park, Yami exhaled a long breath, then inhaled deeply. Whoosh 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 whoosh. A sound like a whale sucking water came from Yami's large mouth, strong suction absorbing all surrounding Reisher.
Sucked into Yami's inhalation, the surrounding pedestrians only felt their bodies lighten.
The next moment, their fragile souls left their bodies.
Ah! Amid continuous screams, Yami dried up the souls of the park's pedestrians, swallowing them all into his mouth.
However, having instantly eaten over a dozen people, Yami instead smacked his lips. Disgusting, not tasty at all. I don't know how the old me could eat such things.
Hearing this, Ulquiorra gave Yami a calm look and said indifferently. Naturally.
With our current spiritual body quality, eating these ordinary souls has no effect on us.
It's not even as good as breathing Hueco Mundo's air. Compared to Hueco Mundo's high Reisher concentration air, these people's souls are instead full of impurities, like foul excrement.
You're right. Yami, who had just chosen to eat shit, sighed.
His originally enthusiastic trip was instantly spoiled by this. Then bring out that Kurosaki Ichigo and complete Aizen-sama's mission. Yami said.
Their arrival this time was precisely to assess for Aizen, to assess whether Ichigo's abilities would pose an obstacle to them.
Sensing the Ryatsu in Karakura town, the two walked forward. But they hadn't gone far when Ulquiorra and Yami stopped.
Before their eyes were two pale, trembling pretty faces evoking pity.
Unfortunately, these two Arrancar here, one was the beast of rage, the other is an emotionless monster who lacked a heart. Whether Yami or Ulquiorra, neither showed any ripple towards the two above-average faces before them. Looking at Jingbing and Exe and Na, Yami gave a sinister laugh.
Oh, those ordinary human souls just now thoroughly disgusted me. Just in time, two Shinigami delivered themselves.
Then I'll use you to rinse my mouth.
Saying this, Yami strode forward, releasing terrifying Ryatsu far exceeding ordinary captain level.
Ah! Pressed by Yami's Ryatsu, Jingbing let out a panicked cry.
Resisting Yami's Ryatsu with all her might, Jingbing's face was full of incomprehension, saying tremulously.
What kind of monster is this? Has a Hollow's mask, and also has a Shinigami's Zanpakuto. Don't know.
Exe and Na, who was slightly stronger than Jingbing, managed to suppress her trembling. But looking at the tall, burly, extremely fierce Yami, Exe and Na was also panicked inside.
She said to Jingbing. Jingbing, we can't stay here. We have to run. This isn't an enemy we should deal with.
Hearing Exe and Na's words, Jingbing showed an expression about to cry, said with a sob, I also know this isn't an enemy we should deal with.
The problem is. My legs, they won't obey me at all.
Just like when Sasuke first encountered Zabuza, Jinbei also lost ability to act due to fear. And Yami was not someone Zabuza could compare to. For the current Jinbei, Yami is at least Orochimaru's level.
Sasuke could still struggle when first facing Zabuza. But if he's facing Orochimaru on his first outing, he might not even have the chance to stab his thigh with a kunai. Chapter 145, Facing Two Arrancars.
At the same time, hearing Jinbei's words, Xianna's face was also gloomy. She was slightly better than Jinbei, and she could still move. But facing an enemy like Yami, every cell in her body was also frantically transmitting escape signals.
Xianna was very afraid that her last bit of courage would completely dissipate the moment she lifted her foot, finally turning into reckless, cowardly fleeing. That would be too shameful, and Xianna would rather die than do that. However, Xianna's silence made Jinbei even more panicked. Xianna, what do we do, Xianna? Hurry, think of something, Xianna. I don't want to die. I want to bring this strength out.
If only I hadn't cared whether Ichigo was joking that time and just offered myself. We might have made him care, and he would have come save us immediately. Jinbei shouted loudly, I don't want to die without having tasted a man. And looking at Jinbei and Xianna like this, Yami also revealed a fierce and sadistic smile.
Haven't tasted a man yet? No problem, I'll let you experience it. I'll enjoy you two properly. Saying this, Yami reached out to grab the two. At the critical moment, it was Xianna who reacted. She extended her hand towards Yami, Hado number 33, Sokatsui. A sapphire blue flame carrying destructive aura shot towards Yami.
Simultaneously, after firing Sokatsui, Xianna immediately grabbed Jinbei and rolled backward, avoiding Sokatsui's explosion power.
Boom! The Sokatsui struck Yami's hand, erupting in a cluster of sapphire blue flame. After escaping to a safe distance, Jinbei and Xianna waited with full expectation for Sokatsui's effect.
The next moment, the smoke cleared.
Maintaining the reaching posture, the hand struck by Sokatsui was smooth and new.
The pure white clothing had not a single scorch mark. The unharmed Yami appeared before everyone's eyes.
Yo-ho, quite energetic, ha! I like such kittens. Then, continue to amuse me.
Two high-speed bala shot from Yami's hands, at speed 20 times that of Zero, exploding at the two's feet.
Boom, rumble, rumble. An explosion not losing to the earlier Sokatsui occurred.
Swept by the explosion, Jinbei and Xianna were heavily tossed away, heavily fell to the ground.
Thud. Ugh. The two fallen on the ground were utterly disheveled.
With despairing gazes, Jinbei and Xianna looked at Yami strolling over again.
Damn it, is this the end for us? Xianna muttered unwillingly.
And in their live streams, viewers seeing this were anxious like ants on a hot pan.
Damn it, where did this monster come from? Damn it, no. Don't let my beloved goddesses be ravaged by such a monster. Save them.
Shopkeeper, Visored, Ichigo in Karakura Town, anyone, save them.
Heavens, I can't watch, brothers. If goddesses Xianna and Jinbei die like this, I'll be left with psychological trauma. Damn it, who went to Ichigo's stream? Where exactly is Ichigo?
If it weren't for that bastard slacking off, making the two goddesses come exterminate hollows for him, such a thing wouldn't have happened. Damn it, if my two goddesses really die like this today, even if Ichigo comes out, I'll hate him forever. Because Jinbei and Xianna, these two goddesses with very high popularity, were in danger. In the live streams, whether Shigwa or Dongwa people, all turned into kings of haste.
Everyone anxiously awaited the appearance of a savior.
Fortunately, Ichigo was also very sensible. Sensing the Arrancar's arrival, knowing the critical situation, he first activated Bankai and used Rui's ability, traversing with high speed.
East of Karakura Town, Karakura Park.
Although Yami had been slowly striding, Jinbei and Xianna were injured extremely severely. They crawled backward with difficulty, but could only leave a trail of blood in vain. Sniffing that fragrant, pure blood scent, completely different from the earlier human souls, Yami gradually approached the two girls. Watching this, the viewers in the two girls' streams became increasingly frantic. They didn't dare watch the next scene, yet dared not exit due to worry. Fortunately, orderly bullet comments suddenly scrolled up in the two girls' streams. Don't be afraid, Ichigo will intervene. When Ichigo arrives, there is blue sky. When Ichigo arrives, the goddesses are saved. Kill, Ichigo, quickly kill these two bastards who hurt the goddesses. In the joyful gazes of the two girls' stream viewers, Ichigo holding Tensa Zangetsu terrifyingly charged out from one side. Sharp Tensa Zangetsu wrapped with Getsuga Tensho directly chopped at Yami's thick arm. Take this. Immediately, under Yami's first disdainful and contemptuous, then terrified and incredulous gaze, Tensa Zangetsu wrapped with Getsuga Tensho lightly and effortlessly cut through Yami's hierro. That feeling of no resistance was like a master swordsman cutting through a plastic water bottle, effortless. Simultaneously, after cutting off Yami's arm with one slash, Ichigo's sword momentum didn't stop. For the current him, Yami wasn't very strong, so Ichigo could also do more than the original Ichigo. One could see, after cutting Yami's arm, Ichigo deftly turned his wrist. The Tensa Zangetsu that had just been chopping down accordingly turned, immediately becoming a ferocious upward slash towards Yami's stomach. Under Ichigo's rapid move change, Yami was caught off guard. Sharp sword tip almost without pause sliced through Yami's solid abs, and penetrated deeply. At this time, Yami only then panically used Sonito to back away. Short-distance spatial movement Sonito pulled Yami and Ichigo apart by at least 10 meters. But for Ichigo and Bankai, mere 10 meters to escape his blade was too naive. The upward slash momentum hadn't even ended. Ichigo activated Rui's ability, shortened the distance between himself and Yami. He then took a gentle step forward. Not Harenkyaku, nor Shuunpa, nor Sonito. Just a normal step forward, the ground seemed to contract under Ichigo's feet, crossed by him in one step. Giving Yami no reaction time at all, Ichigo reappeared before him. A sword-like carrying Getsuga Tensho horizontally slashed on Yami's chest. Boom! The Getsuga Tensho exploded. The explosion is even more astonishing than the earlier bala striking the two girls, and Yami like a tennis ball struck by Ryoma Ekison, breaking the sound barrier in a second, sent flying heavily. That hulking body flying backward in mid-air, his chest wound splattering blood. Aizen's meticulously crafted core, the Diaz Espada, Yami, actually didn't even last 2 rounds in Ichigo's hands, already showing signs of defeat and death. And even more terrifying was, Ichigo's combo wasn't finished yet. Even Iori Yagami's triple kick in 98 knows to hit the opponent in the air after sending them flying, so how could Ichigo not know? Brown and different eyes fixedly locked onto Yami, who was completely unable to control himself in the air. Ichigo's left hand wiped across his face, and hollow mask covering his face would ensure a sure kill. In an instant, using Harenkyaku and Sonito, like the game dropped frames, Ichigo reappeared beside Yami. Tensa Zangetsu heavily swung down at Yami's neck. And struck by this series of combos, Yami only felt completely dumbfounded. Looking at the about-to-fall Tensa Zangetsu, Yami's pupils contracted to pinpricks. At the moment death smiled at him, Yami's mental concentration was extremely high, actually feeling time slow down. Thus, he saw Ulquiorra, who after watching him being comboed, finally reacted and started rescuing him. Clang! A clear, bright blade arrived from the other side, appearing above Yami's neck, blocking Ichigo's execution strike. Yami then saw that even though having lost his heart, facing Ichigo's such fierce assault, Ulquiorra also showed a nervous expression. Before Yami could be surprised that this person could be called a friend would also show such an expression. Above Yami's neck, the back of Ulquiorra's blade had already heavily struck down, knocking on Yami's Adam's apple. Cough! With his Adam's apple suddenly heavily struck, Yami's eyes bulged. Chapter 146 Shinigamification of Hollows. Yami's body ended its uncontrolled flight, crashing heavily into the soil of Karakura Town Park. Boom! A circular crater exploded, thick dust billowing out in all directions. Intense pain radiated from multiple points on Yami's body. However, at this moment, Yami had no chance to care about the pain in his body. Drip, drip. 2 or 3 drops of blood fell from above, landing on Yami's forehead before sliding into his eye socket, dyeing his vision red. Yet, despite having blood in his eyes, Yami paid it no mind. Instead, he widened his eyes even more, looking up at what was above. There, Ulquiorra had not only used his sword to block Ichigo's Tensa Zangetsu, but had also extended a hand to tightly grasp Tensa Zangetsu's blade. The blood dripping onto Yami's face came precisely from where Ulquiorra's palm met Ichigo's blade. Seeing this, Yami showed an expression of utter disbelief. How is this possible? That Ulquiorra, injured by a mere brat like this. That's a Vasto Lord. Yami roared inwardly. Unlike Shinigami, whose power classifications become less distinct after reaching captain level, the ranks of Ninos Grande have always been clearly defined. Jillian, Ajuchas, Vasto Lord. And Vasto Lord, as the highest class of Hollow, even Aizen, who ruled Hueco Mundo, only managed to find a mere 6 of them. Namely, Ulquiorra Cypher, Neliel Tuo Delschwank, Tyr Harabel, Barragan Luzenbairn, Coyote Stark. And the Octava Espada, Saelaporo Grands. But just as the first Espada, Stark, split his soul, Saelaporo also split his own soul, causing him to degrade from Vasto Lord to Ajuchas. Thus, the current number of Vasto Lord in Hueco Mundo is only the first 4 Espada. Yet such a Vasto Lord, after undergoing the Arrancarization that greatly increased his power, still needed to use both sword and hand to block Ichigo's attack. That's why Yami was so shocked beyond measure. Even Yami, who was rated as the Ciro Espada after his resurrection, had now lost his voice and presence in the face of rapid defeat. Completely ignoring Yami, still lying at their feet, Ichigo gave a faint smile as he looked at Ulquiorra ahead. Managed to react, not bad. Then, how about this? Ichigo exerted force on his blade again. Massive Ryatsu frantically poured into the blade in his hand, while Reisher within his body rapidly infused his blood vessels. The long-unused blood artery activated. After his strength had undergone a complete transformation, the difference between Ichigo's blood artery now and before was like comparing a conventionally powered aircraft carrier to a nuclear-powered one, worlds apart. The force pressing down like a mountain was something Ulquiorra could not withstand. Boom! The immense force compressed the air, actually forming an effect like an air cannon. The ground in front of Ichigo seemed struck by a heavy hammer, a crater nearly half a meter deep appearing. Within this half-meter deep crater lay a pale severed hand. On the other side, Yami, who had been dragged out by Ulquiorra, ignored the sword still embedded in his body, looking at Ulquiorra's arm in shock. "Ulquiorra, how are you?" Yami asked with concern. However, compared to Yami, the heartless Ulquiorra was very composed, only his expression growing a few shades more serious. "It's fine. I have high-speed regeneration. This is but a minor injury." As he spoke, Ulquiorra's hand regenerated. Looking at Ichigo, Ulquiorra said calmly, "Aizen-sama sending us to assess your strength was indeed the correct decision. Kurosaki Ichigo, you indeed have the qualification to hinder Aizen-sama's grand undertaking. Therefore, as the Arrancar army personally created by Aizen-sama, we, the Espada, shall slay you here," Ulquiorra declared impassively. His words shocked the viewers in the live stream. Espada? Arrancar? Wait, Aizen mentioned the paths beyond Shinigami and Hollows at Sokayaku Hill, namely the hollowification of Shinigami and the Shinigamification of Hollows. We just saw the hollowified Shinigami of the visored, Shinigami without masks, so wearing masks is called visored. Hollows have masks, so removing the mask is called Arrancar. Could this be what Aizen mentioned at Sokayaku, the Shinigamification of Hollows? Before, we were discussing how Aizen would deal with all those captains in the Series. It seems he's been preparing for a long time. They were shocked once again by Aizen's meticulous thinking. Simultaneously, watching the current battle, everyone became focused. Although Ichigo's strength had greatly increased and he had always held the advantage. For the opponent to declare they would slay Ichigo here meant they had the confidence to do so. Everyone watched Ulquiorra with tension. Beside Ulquiorra, Yami, who knew his friend very well, was shocked for what felt like the umpteenth time. He knew Ulquiorra's strength, and had just experienced Ichigo's strength firsthand. Even so, Ulquiorra still declared he could slay him. Such words! Ulquiorra, are you going to use that move now? Yami asked in astonishment. Is this brat really worth you using that move? Just upon meeting? To this, Ulquiorra did not answer. He merely stared intently at Ichigo. Coincidentally, at this moment, Oraheim and Chad, having sensed the battle here, came running over. Kurosaki-kun, are you alright? Oraheim looked at Ichigo with concern. I'm fine. Chad, I'll leave it to you and Oraheim to take these two somewhere else for treatment. Remember, the farther the better. Ichigo said quickly. Seeing Ichigo like this, both understood the situation was tense. Using Soten Kisun to envelop Jingbing and Xan Na, with Chad transporting them, the four quickly left. Meanwhile, seeing Ulquiorra's eyes drawn to Oraheim's Soten Kisun, Ichigo asked Yami, that move? Ah. Yami responded in a low voice, explaining. The holification of Shinigami is Shinigami gaining hollow abilities, such as Siro, Hiero, Sonido. The Shinigamification of hollows naturally means gaining Shinigami abilities. And the most obvious Shinigami ability is that one. Yami's gaze fell on the Zanpakuto in Ichigo's hand. After becoming Arrancar, we hollow seal our original hollow core within a Zanpakuto. The method of releasing this power is called Resurrection. Now, Kurosaki Ichigo, do you know, in Las Noches, only two things are forbidden. First, the use of Gran Rey Siro is prohibited. Second, Espada ranked 4 and above are forbidden from releasing their Resurrection below the dome. I must say, Kurosaki Ichigo, you are honored. To witness the Resurrection of an Espada ranked 4 or above during our Espada's first appearance in this world. Ulquiorra is precisely the one ranked 4th among the Espada. Speaking of Ulquiorra's status, Yami smiled with pride, looking at Ichigo as if he were already dead. Tremble, Kurosaki Ichigo. Your family, your friends, everything you hold dear will be destroyed under the Black-Winged Demon. As Yami narrated, a heavy pressure descended upon Ichigo and his live stream audience. Of course, Ichigo himself wasn't really pressured, but his live stream audience grew somewhat panicked. Oh no, we were just thinking how great it was that Ichigo saved 2 goddesses, but now it seems he's run into another steel plate. This Espada, 4th Espada, Resurrection stuff, it all sounds very imposing. Look at this guy's cold expression, he definitely looks strong. Right now, I feel like when Ichigo first encountered Kachiki Byakuya. What to do, what to do? Where's the shopkeeper, where's Yoruchi? Someone save him. In Ichigo's livestream, everyone was discussing fervently. However, they didn't know that both Kisuke and Yoruchi had already arrived. Chapter 147 Ulquiorra Cipher. Hidden behind a bush, Yoruchi looked at Kisuke beside her. So, are we helping? If I'm not mistaken, that hollow is a Vasto Lord, right? A Vasto Lord level Arrancar, one of the top enforcers under Aizen. Ichigo won't have an easy time dealing with him, will he? Yoruchi's words were very objective. Hitsugaya once said that 10 Vasto Lord could destroy the Soul Society. Of course, that somewhat exaggerates the strength of a Vasto Lord. However, the statement that 10 Vasto Lord could destroy the Soul Society is not false. With the combat power of 10 Vasto Lord, if a fight broke out, the Soul Society would be gone, similar to how Yamamoto's Bankai could incinerate the Soul Society. Yet, hearing Yoruchi's words, Kisuke gave a slight smile. Regarding Ulquiorra's specific strength, Urahara only had a general understanding, but regarding Ichigo's strength, he understood better than Yoruchi. Addressing Yoruchi, Kisuke said with a smile. Just watch. You may not understand Kurosaki-kun's strength very well, but I've watched him from beginning to end and understand it very well. With Kurosaki-kun's strength, dealing with a Vasto Lord level Arrancar shouldn't be a problem. Instead, what we should worry about is Karakura Town. I'm afraid if the two of them fight in Karakura Town, they might destroy it. So, Yoruchi-chan, we better be prepared to intervene. Having said this, Kisuke turned his head, focusing intently on the battle in the field. Naturally, he didn't notice Yoruchi's peculiar expression. Yoruchi was not as completely unaware of Ichigo as Kisuke had said. Indeed, she wasn't as knowledgeable about Ichigo's strength as Kisuke. However, regarding Ichigo, Yoruchi had also observed him from head to toe, fully grasping his length, size, and even duration. Kisuke didn't even know he had lost something important, and Yoruchi didn't know why Kisuke understood a man so well. Of course, there was no need to tell Kisuke this. As the former captain of the 2nd Division, commander of the Onmitsukido, leader of the Punishment Force, and head of the Shihoin clan, it was all too simple for Yoruchi to hide something from someone. After a brief exchange with Kisuke, Yoruchi looked back at the field. At this moment, Ulquiorra had made his decision and released his Resurrection. In close. Murcielago. Following Ulquiorra's calm voice, deep, ink-green Ryatsu erupted from his Zanpakuto, Murcielago. Subsequently, the ink-green Ryatsu transformed into a rain cloud enveloping Ulquiorra. From this rain cloud, droplets of pale green rain fell, sprinkling onto Ichigo. As these Ryatsu raindrops touched him, a sense of loneliness and emptiness washed over him. However, before Ichigo could experience it for a few more seconds, the Ryatsu rain falling from the sky dyed the emerald green grass black, and the Resurrection was finally complete. The next moment, Ulquiorra appeared before everyone, clad in a white robe, his mask transformed into a helmet with 2 horns, his hair grown long, the tear marks under his eyes deepened and thickened, the nails on his hands turned into long claws, and a pair of black wings sprouted from his back. Powerful Ryatsu burst forth from his seemingly slender body. Damn, so cool. Indeed. Aw, brother, kill me. I command you to duel with me at once. Wow, this style, this aura, perfectly captured. Seeing Ulquiorra like this, even as Ichigo's enemy, the live stream audience couldn't help but voice their admiration. An indifferent, emotionless personality, a handsome appearance, cool and stylish moves, and a presence unmatched by anyone. This was Ulquiorra Cypher. However, if he were just a viewer, Ichigo might have also marveled at Ulquiorra's coolness. But at this moment, Ichigo was Ulquiorra's direct enemy, so he couldn't appreciate this coolness. In fact, Ichigo felt Aizen ranking Ulquiorra as the Cuarto Espada was too low. In Ichigo's view, Ulquiorra's position for Aizen in Hueco Mundo was basically equivalent to Jugram Hashwalth, the leader of Yawacha's stern Ritter, the diligent, capable type who gets things done. At the very least, Ulquiorra's combat power was far stronger than that of the Tres Espada, Tyr Harabel. Tyr Harabel struggled for a long time against Hitsugaya without securing victory, while Ulquiorra fought all the way until Ichigo powered up and the god-slaying, Horned Hollow appeared before being successfully dealt with. It is no exaggeration to say that Ulquiorra in Resurrection gave Ichigo a long-absent sense of pressure. This rare sense of being pressed made Ichigo get serious. Simultaneously, Ulquiorra was a man of few words but deadly action. Condensing a Erasure Light sword in his hand, Ulquiorra instantly used Sonido to appear before Ichigo and slashed down. White, ethereal Ryatsu clashed with the black Ryatsu of Ichigo's Bankai and Holification. Centered on the 2 blades, violent tremors spread in all directions. The earth shattered, smoke and dust billowed, as if a missile had exploded. And in the blink of an eye, dozens more missile explosions seemed to occur. The forest of Karakura Town Park was as if ravaged by a typhoon, with many thick, round tree trunks snapped and sent flying. Madly brandishing their blades, Ichigo and Ulquiorra were like 2 bighorn sheep constantly locking horns. No technique, no footwork, just a pure clash of strength against strength. The tremendous roar caused resonance, even shattering streetlights over 10 meters away. Although the 2 locked in deadly combat couldn't be seen, in the usually bird-chirping, flower-fragrant Karakura Town Park, driven by the instinct to survive, countless birds and insects frantically fled the area. From a distance, a feeling of impending doom, of dark clouds pressing down on the city, overwhelmed the senses. Tsk tisk, truly terrifying, this power. My punches and kicks after using Shunko are probably only about this level. From afar, having retreated to the edge of the park to observe the battle, Yoruchi commented on Ichigo and Ulquiorra's fight. Beside Yoruchi was Oraheim, who had retreated here not long ago and was still treating Jingbing in Xan. Hearing Yoruchi's words, Oraheim immediately asked with concern, "Yoruchi-san, will Ichigo win?" Hearing Oraheim's question, the viewers on Earth, using multiple devices and watching several live streams simultaneously, pricked up their ears. They were very curious about the newly appeared Ulquiorra and were also excited about the battle's outcome. Yoruchi thought for a moment, then shook her head. "I can't tell yet. That boy hasn't used his full strength. And neither has that Arrancar." "What?" Hearing Yoruchi's words, Oraheim was shocked. Given how Ichigo and Ulquiorra's fight seemed about to destroy the entire park, they still weren't using their full strength? Damn, is it really that exaggerated? This isn't full strength yet? I felt like this level of commotion was already comparable to when they were in the Soul Society. It's getting a bit scary, brothers. The effect of two powerhouses like this fighting in an urban environment. This should be full strength, right? If Ichigo is already like this now, when other captains fight, wouldn't Karakura Town be destroyed? Regarding Yoruchi's words, the live stream audience expressed some skepticism. However, not having seen Ichigo's inner world, they actually didn't know just how much stronger Ichigo had become. They couldn't comprehend Ichigo's training. In the field, growing tired of the uninteresting contest of strength with Ulquiorra, Ichigo forcefully pushed away Ulquiorra's blade, then proactively stepped back. Of course, it's also because continuing would mean Ichigo himself would lose. Chapter 148 Ichigo vs Ulquiorra. Lifting his head to look at Ulquiorra, Ichigo provocatively said, "What's the matter? Weren't you going to eliminate me here? Is this all your elimination amounts to?" Hearing Ichigo's words, Ulquiorra's expression remained unchanged. "Ridiculous. Are you provoking me? The kanji granted to me by Aizen-sama is nihility. Emotional fluctuations caused by provocation are something only beings with hearts possess. For me, it does not apply. So don't expect me to reveal openings due to anger. I can see it, Kurosaki Ichigo. The reason your physical abilities can still match mine is because you've been continuously infusing Reisha into your body. By means of a stimulant, you've maintained this fight against me, but such methods cannot last. The issue is that I am merely swinging my blade normally. As long as I continue to swing, your body will inevitably reach its limit before mine." Ulquiorra's words caused Ichigo's expression to darken slightly. He hadn't expected the other party to think this way. Having been in the Bleach world for so long, this was the first time he'd seen someone understand combat like this. Ulquiorra was like a heartless robot, cold and rational. It was akin to those pro players' macro playstyle in League of Legends. Ulquiorra rejected unnecessary, emotional plays, only needing to maintain his advantage to overwhelm his opponent. But Ichigo knew Ulquiorra far too well. After just a moment's thought, Ichigo revealed a smile again. "Is that so? But how do you know I cannot surpass my body's limits and slay you instead?" "Because that is an impossibility," Ulquiorra replied calmly. Humans always like to harbor expectations towards things, not knowing that what cannot be seen does not exist. Things that do not exist have no value for discussion. Ichigo said with a faint smile, "But you are still discussing it with me. You attempt to negate me, yet do not realize that the act of negation itself is an affirmation. Just as you try to negate the existence of a heart." Ichigo gave Ulquiorra a meaningful look. If something truly does not exist, how can you prove its non-existence? Hearing this, Ulquiorra's expression shifted slightly. The next moment, holding his light sword, Ulquiorra appeared behind Ichigo once more. Clang! Blocking Ulquiorra's attack with his blade, Ichigo continued to probe his psyche. "Impatient, you're getting impatient. I know you're impatient, but don't be yet. Hear me out." Ichigo questioned, "Just said you wouldn't be provoked by me, and now you already are. Can't that prove it?" As for the debate on the heart, if Ulquiorra truly wished to explore it, Ichigo had a set of quantum mechanics waiting for him. However, that was clearly unnecessary now.
Ulquiorra remained very calm. The meaning behind the Espada's existence, if it could be so easily overturned by words, they wouldn't be the Espada. Boring. I said, only things that can be seen truly exist. Two brief statements expressed Ulquiorra's stance. However, sometimes the mouth is very hard, while everything else is soft. Ulquiorra was an opponent worthy of Ichigo's full focus. Thus, for the cards in his hand, Ichigo also needed to figure out how to use them carefully. But from the increased power in Ulquiorra's sword, Ichigo could sense that the other party was currently using the full strength of his first stage Resurrection. In that case, there was nothing more for Ichigo to say. He decisively raised the stakes. Pixie. Merge. Ichigo summoned the doll he had obtained during the Bout arc. Pixie, wearing a princess dress, twirled in the air before flying straight towards Ichigo. From Pixie's body, faint captain-level Reiatsu surged forth. Although not very strong for Ichigo and Ulquiorra. In a battle between powerhouses, being just a step ahead means being worlds apart. Raising a finger pointed at Ichigo's Pixie, Ulquiorra fired a rapid series of bala. The black bala fired by Ulquiorra himself were countless times faster than Yami's bala. But Ichigo still accurately intercepted them. The predetermined space was stretched. The extremely fast bala also fell into slow motion within the elongated distance, like small insects caught in a spider's web. Subsequently, relying on the merging ability of Yoshino's fire doll, Ichigo's Pixie crashed into him, initiating a joint transformation. Pixie's Reiatsu instantly poured into Ichigo's body. Along with this Reiatsu, faint five-colored patterns appeared on the black garments of Ichigo's Tensa Zangetsu Bankai. Under Ulquiorra's rational, analytical gaze, Ichigo laughed loudly and stepped forward. The ability of Rui activated. Stepping on the highly stretched space and utilizing the slingshot effect of space, Ichigo launched himself towards Ulquiorra. On the originally slender blade, wind and fire complemented each other. Swinging the giant flaming Tensa Zangetsu, as if he had picked up the wrong Zanpakuto and taken his father's Injetsu instead, Ichigo slashed towards Ulquiorra. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The wind wrapped around the sword was like a raging typhoon. Together with the burning flames, it spun out a fiery tornado. Restrained by the fiery tornado, the sharp Tensa Zangetsu accurately struck Ulquiorra's left chest before he could react. Rip. His post-resurrection garment tore. The skin on his body's surface was slightly blackened by the flames. The number 4 left by Aizen, representing the Cuarto Espada, appeared on Ulquiorra's left chest. Simultaneously, lowering his head slightly to look at the bleeding wound on his chest, a flash passed through Ulquiorra's eyes. Looking at Ichigo not far away, Ulquiorra channeled Reiatsu into the light sword in his hand. The light sword transformed into a spear, then Ulquiorra forcefully raised it and hurled it. It flew through the air as straight as a javelin thrown by an athlete. The terrifying aura emanating from the light spear made Ichigo feel deeply uncomfortable. Yet, he couldn't use Rui to deal with this attack. Because, with a flap of his wings and a stomp of his feet that created a massive crater, using the reaction force, Ulquiorra charged at Ichigo. With Ulquiorra's influence, Ichigo couldn't manipulate space. And in Ulquiorra's hand, a Gran Ray Zero quickly gathered power. In response, Ichigo also began gathering power for a Zero. A red Zero clashed violently with a black Gran Ray Zero. Boom! An intense explosion occurred. Simultaneously, without waiting for the explosion to completely dissipate. Whoosh! A familiar blade light appeared once more. A pitch-black slash instantly cleaved through the not yet fully consumed Zero and Gran Ray Zero. That's right, it was a familiar slash, but it was Ichigo's. Originally planning to pass through using the explosion as cover to catch Ichigo off guard. But seeing the blade light already at his face, Ulquiorra had no choice but to raise his palm to block it. Thump! Getsuga Tensho erupted once again within the grasp of the black-winged demon. A powerful impact force transmitted from it. Like an airplane hit by anti-aircraft fire, Ulquiorra fell from the sky, crashing heavily into the fire-baked earth. Boom! With Ulquiorra's fall, a ring of yellow-brown dust exploded.
But before this dust ring could fully expand, another high-speed figure charged into it. Ichigo swung Tensa Zangetsu, the power of the bound doll activating. The dust ring that Ulquiorra had just created now seemed to be granted life, transforming into a giant serpent that wrapped and coiled around Ulquiorra. Looking at the serpent coiling around him, Ulquiorra was quite puzzled, not knowing where it came from. But regardless of where the serpent came from, there was only one thing for Ulquiorra to do. Chapter 149, one that could make Karakura Town disappear. Boom! Awe-inspiring Reiatsu erupted, a powerful pressure radiating in all directions. Pressed by Ulquiorra's Reiatsu, the giant serpent was completely unlike its majestic appearance, directly forced flat onto the ground by the Reiatsu. Towards the serpent, Ulquiorra lightly flicked his hand. A sharp bala shot from his hand, accurately striking the serpent's 7-inch point. With its vital point breached, the giant serpent once again transformed into pure yellow dust. Similarly, Ulquiorra's previously clear vision was once again obscured by this dust. Wait! Ulquiorra realized something. From the beginning, Ichigo hadn't appeared before his eyes. In that case, Ulquiorra predictably reached his hand towards above his head. As if specifically aiming for his palm, Ichigo's Tensa Zangetsu accurately struck Ulquiorra's hand. The sound of steel clashing was deafening. Grasping Ichigo's blade backhandedly, ignoring the pain of his he arrow shattering. Looking at Ichigo, Ulquiorra said calmly, "Caught you." Ichigo gave a faint smile, countering, "Really? But I feel it's I who caught you." Suddenly sensing a fluctuation, Ulquiorra looked down. There, in Ichigo's left hand, a small bow was drawn and ready, already aimed at Ulquiorra before him at some unknown time. Unlike previous battles with others. Possessing a bound doll, Ichigo had improved upon his Getsuya. Originally, it's just a Heilig file combined with Getsuga Tensho, but now, it was Dull Sword plus Heilig file plus Getsuga Tensho, plus the elemental abilities of the wind and firebound doll. Once powered up, the arrowhead of Ichigo's Getsuya radiated gusts of wind, spewed flames, and its tip, where matter and Reishuri unified, shimmered with a sharp light. Whoosh! Aimed at Ulquiorra, Ichigo's Getsuya was fired with terrifying force. Simultaneously, Ulquiorra's eyes narrowed, an ink-green Gran Ray Zero activating. Their skills clashed once more. But this time, knowing he wouldn't be interfered with, Ichigo could freely operate. Activating Rui, the space between the Getsuya and the Gran Ray Zero was once again divided and stretched. In front of Ichigo's Getsuya, the Gran Ray Zero continuously expanded, while the Getsuya continuously shrank. In the end, despite being the same size upon collision, it produced an effect of breaking a surface with a point. Ichigo's Getsuya easily pierced through the Gran Ray Zero, heavily striking Ulquiorra's chest. Thump! The immense power pierced through the hollow's he arrow and flesh. Below Ulquiorra's hollow hole, a new hole was born. A large amount of blood flowed from it. Actually. Severely wounded, Ulquiorra staggered back 2 steps. Unstoppable blood spurted from between his fingers. Actually what? Actually broke your technique? I said you can't kill me. You don't have the ability, you know? Ichigo said nonchalantly. His slender middle finger rested on his thumb, and he gave Ulquiorra's forehead a light flick. Thump! Immense force erupted from Ulquiorra's forehead. Struck by Ichigo's flick, Ulquiorra was sent flying headfirst as if hit by a dump truck, ultimately crashing heavily into a fortunate large tree. Ulquiorra's powerless body slowly slid down. Cough, 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 cough. Coughing sounds came, accompanied by blood. How is this possible? Watching Ulquiorra coughing blood, Yami was dumbfounded. With Ulquiorra's strength, even after releasing his Resurrection, he still suffered a major loss at this human's hands. What kind of guy are you? Yami looked at Ichigo incredulously. Kurosaki Ichigo, almost 16 years old, currently attending Karakura High School, a high school student part-time Shinigami, lieutenant of the 13th Division. What, didn't Aizen give you even this basic information on paper? So you don't understand my strength either. Buddy, did you offend Aizen?
Are you sent here to die? So, how about it? Want to abandon the darkness for the light?
After all, we Shinigami slaying hollows is just work.
For big hollows like you, just stay in Hueco Mundo and enjoy your own territory. No one would bother you anyway. Ichigo replied with a smile. Hearing his words, Yami's pupils trembled.
The overly harsh reality made him subconsciously believe Ichigo's words.
We were abandoned by Aizen-sama?
After all, Aizen indeed hadn't said Ichigo possessed such strength, enough to handle Ulquiorra's resurrection. However, just as Yami was about to think further, a cold voice arrived.
Silence, Yami. Aizen-sama cannot be wrong. Kurosaki Ichigo's strength is indeed formidable, but that doesn't mean I cannot handle him. I am also aware of that information. I just didn't tell you. Ulquiorra said. He looked at Ichigo seriously. Although Aizen-sama's order was to assess whether Kurosaki Ichigo would hinder his grand undertaking. Now, through my assessment, you indeed will hinder Aizen-sama's grand undertaking. I've studied your information, Kurosaki Ichigo. Your growth is too fast, it's terrifying. Therefore, I shall eliminate you here.
Ha! Facing Ulquiorra's words, Ichigo gave a faint smile.
You know, talk is useless. I am well aware. From Ulquiorra's body, his Ryatsu erupted to an even higher level. Ordinary Espada can only achieve the first stage of resurrection. But I am different. I can achieve the second stage. Witness it. The true form of despair. Having said this, Ulquiorra's entire body's Ryatsu surged violently.
On the surface of his body, the Ryuryoku was like water brought to a boil.
Centered on Ulquiorra, released high-density Raysure gathered. Thus, Ulquiorra's appearance transformed once more.
The upper half of his clothing disappeared. Black liquid flowed from his eyes, dividing the lower part of his tear marks into two lines. The whites of his eyes turned green, and his pupils also changed to resemble Ichigo's hollowified pupils. From his abdomen to his legs, as well as his arms and back, were covered in black feathers. The lower rear part of his robe split into two halves.
His wings fully extended, revealing bat-like claws. Simultaneously, similar changes occurred all over Ulquiorra's body.
The horns on his helmet grew longer and sharper upwards, resembling a bat's. A long, freely controllable tail grew from his tailbone, its tip having a blade-like bony structure. Sharp claws also grew on his feet.
A fully bestialized, or perhaps semi-bestial, Ulquiorra appeared before everyone. Damn, so cool. This guy, does he have coolness nailed down or what? This is the second coolest I've seen in the game, aside from Ichigo. Such a transformation truly has flavor. Regarding Ulquiorra's second stage resurrection, the live stream audience was utterly shocked.
Meanwhile, seeing Ulquiorra like this, Kisuke and Yoruchi could no longer remain seated.
Kisuke, we must intervene. Yoruchi said. I know. Kisuke nodded gravely. With this level of power, if they fight, it could make the entire Karakura town disappear.
Hearing the two of them, Oraheim, who was still treating Jing Bing and Exean Na, exclaimed in shock.
What? Could make Karakura town disappear? Such thing is impossible, right? Oraheim also wore an expression of disbelief.
The viewers in the two girls' live streams felt the same.
The battles of superhuman powerhouses are intense, but can they really be like those powerhouses in movies and novels, where fighting can destroy an entire city? Everyone was extremely curious. Chapter 150 Running Away.
At this time, Kisuke and Yoruchi directly used Shuunpa and disappeared. Simultaneously, everyone in Ichigo's livestream witnessed what it truly meant for a fight to destroy a city. Flapping his wings to fly into the sky, Ulquiorra extended both hands, pulling out a Lanza del Relampago.
Aiming at Ichigo, the Lanza del Relampago was hurled with immense force.
Immediately, Ichigo wanted to manipulate this Lanza del Relampago using the ability of Rui. However, from the feedback of Rui, a shocking situation arose. The density of this Lanza del Relampago before him was so high it completely exceeded the limits of Ichigo's ability. He could only slightly influence the direction of the Lanza del Relampago before being utterly unable to manipulate it any further. Swift as lightning, the Lanza del Relampago veered off at an angle, landing ahead of Ichigo some distance away. Boom! The Lanza del Relampago struck the ground. Instantly, it was as if a small nuclear bomb had detonated. A gigantic mushroom cloud engulfed Ichigo in an instant. And in the live stream, everyone discovered, to their horror, that their live feed had gone black. Damn! Damn! What's going on? What happened? Is Ichigo dead? The live stream audience was extremely worried. Wait, quiet, don't spam chat. Look carefully, it seems to be moving. A bullet comment appeared. Seeing this comment, the live stream feed quickly cleared. Subsequently, everyone also noticed that Ichigo's feed was indeed moving, and moving at high speed. The next moment, accompanied by somewhat hurried footsteps, Ichigo rushed out of the explosion's smoke and dust. Sunlight poured into the live stream, and the view opened up. But before the audience could catch their breath, Ichigo looked back. The park, completely submerged by the mushroom cloud in shockwave, appeared before everyone's eyes. One strike. This park, located in the eastern part of Karakura town, with its long history and beautiful environment, was directly annihilated. Damn! Is this really an attack that can be launched by a humanoid creature? Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked beyond measure. This isn't a person, this is clearly a walking, talking humanoid nuclear bomb. For the first time, the image of a high-level powerhouse in the Bleach world fighting at full power appeared before everyone. Shinigami battles are usually for slaying hollows, so the destructive power is often relatively restrained. Moreover, from just visuals, people cannot perceive the existence of Ryatsu. All along, people didn't believe the beings in Bleach were that powerful. But now, witnessing Ulquiorra's attack, they understood. This is the true effect of top-tier powerhouses going all out. Instantly, in the Shigua's Black Room meeting chamber, numerous capitalists could no longer sit still. Ladies and gentlemen, have you seen such power? We must reconsider our stance towards the supernatural beings across the ocean and even those on our side. Regarding the combat power of Ichigo, who could fight such a monster, everyone developed a deep sense of awe and fear. Perhaps even Ichigo himself didn't know at this moment that the outside world's attitude shift could be so direct and decisive. Currently, Ichigo just looked to his side. A dark-skinned, purple-haired big sister stood with her arms crossed, freely displaying her impressive physique. You're here, but where's Urahara Kisuke? Ichigo asked curiously. There. Yaruchi gestured with her chin to the side. Only then did Ichigo realize that Karakura Town Park was now surrounded by a layer of pale red barrier. And the source of this barrier was none other than Kisuke. He had contained the park's massive commotion and that terrifying explosion. So that's how it is. Ichigo understood. Now he knew why it was so quiet here, with no sound of police sirens. The commotion from your fight this time, Kisuke managed to contain it. The problem is if you keep fighting, it'll become uncontrollable. Yoruchi said. So? Ichigo raised an eyebrow. So, I will fight alongside you. Yoruchi assumed a combat stance. Seeing Yoruchi like this, the live stream audience became excited. Wow, we get to see Sister Yoruchi in action again? This time, with Yoruchi and Ichigo teaming up, that Ulquiorra is definitely in for a world of hurt. Previous commenter, it's Ulquiorra. Looking towards the center of the smoke and dust, the two waited. However, much to their surprise, even after waiting for a long time, Ulquiorra's attack still hadn't arrived. What's going on? Ichigo manipulated Pixie to blow away the smoke. Now, in the park, a scene of devastation with only a giant crater remained. Where were Ulquiorra and Yami? Even after Ulquiorra's second stage resurrection, these two actually ran away? Simultaneously, in the passageway from Hueco Mundo to the living world. Yami also looked at Ulquiorra in confusion.
Ulquiorra, you were in your second stage resurrection. Wouldn't finishing him off have been fine? Why did we have to leave? Regarding Yami's words, Ulquiorra did not answer, merely running quickly towards Hueco Mundo as if afraid of pursuers behind him. Hey, Ulquiorra? Seeing Ulquiorra like this, Yami reached out, wanting to stop him. But Yami had only just touched Ulquiorra. The next moment. Thump! Exhausted, Ulquiorra released his second stage resurrection form, revealing an unprecedented state of fragility. Quick, keep carrying me away. Ulquiorra explained. That arrow earlier directly struck my internal organs. The second stage resurrection was just to forcefully intimidate them. Moreover, Urahara Kisuke and Shihoin Yaruchi arrived. I had no choice but to leave. Hearing Ulquiorra's words, Yami understood. Carrying Ulquiorra, the two quickly retreated. Not long after, the two returned to Las Noches, making their way to the main council hall. Seeing the heavily wounded Ulquiorra and Yami, who was even missing an arm, the Espada, and Aizen were all shocked. Weren't you two in the living world on a reconnaissance mission? Who did you encounter? Kayaraka Shunsui? Unohana Retsu? Shiba Ishin? Shihoin Yoruchi? Urahara Kisuke? Hey, don't tell me you ran into that batch of captains hidden by Urahara Kisuke? Jin asked, puzzled. After all, he knew Ulquiorra's strength. Perhaps only these people could inflict such heavy injuries on him. But Jin never expected it was none of them. Regarding the enemy, the weakened Ulquiorra did not elaborate. He merely gouged out his own eyeball and crushed it. Crack! Carrying the memories of this battle, the shattered eyeball turned into erasure, allowing everyone to experience it firsthand. Having watched the complete battle between Ulquiorra and Ichigo, Aizen's expression turned grave. To think, such a thing happened. That human boy is growing rapidly. In that case, Aizen contemplated regarding Ichigo. That wraps up this part of What If Transmigrated and taking over Ichigo's body. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Quick reminder. The series What If Transmigrated to a Medieval Pokémon World will be going on hold soon, since we've nearly caught up with the author. So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these 3 fanfics. What if creating the strongest Strawhat crew by reading manga? What if Reincarnated in Bleach as Toshiro Hitsugaya? What if Reborn in Naruto World, continuation? Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. I'll take the top pick and start working on that series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.